Crazy world is always healthy. Let me know, Instagram, if you can hear me. Please confirm. First one to confirm that you can hear me will have my gratitude for what little it's worth. So let's talk about narcissism in dating. So as I was saying, we're all narcissistic sometimes. And I think that's a powerful place to start because it's too easy to say, you are the problem. You know what? Vanessa's my good friend. We traveled around Paris and Florence. We're walking the streets. We're eating our gelato. And then suddenly she says something. And you know what? She had done this other thing that had bothered me 5 hours ago, but I didn't talk about it because it was uncomfortable. And then she says this other thing and it just irritates me and I'm tired and I've had too much caffeine because you got to drink a lot of coffee in Florence. And I like can't breathe suddenly, and I say something mean to her and hurtful because I want her to go away with her meanness. And before you know it, we're having a fight. And that's all hypothetical. We get along perfectly. We've never had a single disagreement. But that's what happens in relationships, whether they're friendships or romantic or familial, right? And basically, Andrew, this old coach at the climbing gym where I climb, used to say whenever people, particularly kids, because he would teach kids, are about to go do a new climbing hold, a new they're doing a tough problem, they're going from one step to another, they forget to breathe. That's the common thing that always happens. So you go, yeah, and we think somehow psychosomatically, right? We think that gritting our teeth is a good way to get through tough stuff, when really it's the opposite, right? It's being willing to breathe through the tough stuff. That's literally what they teach with giving birth, which is one of the more challenging times of our lives sometimes, and more beautiful. So you got to breathe through it. And Buddhism talks about that with Tonglen. So I wanted to start this Tonglen. We'll put that link in the comments and in the YouTube video. And so these videos are available on our podcast, on YouTube, on Instagram, IGTV, on Facebook Live, and you can find all of them at elephantjournal.com/talkshow. elephantjournal.com/talkshow. So, it's important with discussing narcissism not to start with saying it's their problem. I had a toxic boyfriend. I had a toxic girlfriend. Because what do narcissists say? They blame other people first. So if we want to have a real conversation and have any kind of insight or growth about narcissism, we have to start by talking about ourselves, not being narcissistic and just blaming other people. So I can be narcissistic when I'm speedy, when I'm scared, when I'm uncomfortable with vulnerability. It takes bravery to feel vulnerable. The payoff of being willing to feel pain, which is what vulnerability is, being willing to feel pain. Vanessa might say, you know what, Waylon? When you interrupt me constantly, I can't get a word in, and that's really difficult for me. She's saying that. I'm not hearing, Waylon, you're such a great friend, you're a wonderful person, and I appreciate you, which is what I want to hear if I'm a narcissist or just a human being. That's what we want to hear, right? Instead, I'm hearing, Waylon, you are disappointing, you're a jerk sometimes, blah, blah, blah. And if Vanessa's not being constructive about it, if she herself is not willing to feel her own pain, her own heart, and breathe through that, she might say, Waylon, you are such a big jerk. And I'd be like, no, you're a jerk. And she'd be like, no, you're a jerk. And then it's just a hot potato of blame. So in Buddhism, we talk about drive all blames into one. Who is the one? Bad news, folks. It's me. But it's not me. In your case, it's you. So it's not that this isn't like victim blaming. This isn't an excuse to flagellate yourself and hate yourself and take blame that really isn't yours. This isn't a way to let people off the hook. But from a Buddhist point of view, it's a great trick to just say, Vanessa, I hear that you're angry, and I own that. Let me know more about how I can improve. But you don't have to say it the way I just said it, which frankly is irritating. It sounds like nonviolent communication, which drives me insane. It sounds fake. You have to say it genuinely. You actually have to feel it. Be willing to take the blame. You don't have to take it forever. You don't have to be willing to take it finally, but you have to be willing to feel what they're saying. It's called a revolutionary thing for white men everywhere. Listening is the other half of conversation. So apparently, I've been told, I have yet to see documented proof, that half of conversation isn't talking and hearing yourself talk. It's listening. So, all that said, we have all dated people who can be narcissistic. And some of us can be very narcissistic. In Buddhism, they call full-on narcissists Rudrahood. And it's not that they're evil. It's not that we're evil if we're narcissists. What is happening is, I'm turning off my notifications because they're irritating. I'm just trying to relax. Full-on narcissism is basically 24/7 trying to protect, number one, 24/7 believing my own thoughts. So strategizing. You know how when you're nervous, you have a lot of thoughts. Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Am I going to blah, blah, blah? How am I going to approach? Blah, blah, blah. When you're relaxed, you don't think about any of that. You might think a little bit, oh, I'm going to go in, I'm going to shake some hands, but you're just relaxed. I'm kind of thinking of going to a party. When you're insecure about it, ironically, you're being narcissistic. You're obsessed with your own thoughts and you're believing them. When you're relaxed, and an introvert can be relaxed, an extrovert can be relaxed, you don't strategize your way into the party. You just go and you be, and you're okay with space. Space is the final frontier for narcissists. Space is the ultimate way to defeat narcissism. Space is something we inject into our thoughts and our obsessions when we meditate. So when we meditate, you take a good posture, take a good breath, you acknowledge any thoughts that come up. It's hot in here. Are people going to attack me for having my shirt unbuttoned? Whatever the thought is, you label it thinking. Thinking. It's just thinking. It's no big deal. And I return my attention to my breath in and out. And we do that again and again. And we dedicate the merit before and after to be a benefit to others, including myself, but not just for me. Meditation isn't just for me. So that's how we overcome our own narcissism. But meditation is powerful stuff. It actually overcomes our issues with other people's narcissism. So someone else can be like, you know what? If you say you're dating a narcissist, the narcissist could be like, you're a jerk, I hate you, you're awful, it's all about me. And instead of being triggered by that, you just, wow, this person I'm dating is full of themselves, but aren't we all sometimes? So you feel this thing called empathy and relaxation. So space, again, instead of feeling over-caffeinated and tight in your heart, you know that feeling? And we strike out. We do this thing called sighing. Sighing is actually a magical alchemy of transforming stress into space. So we sigh, we take these great breaths when we do yoga, when we meditate, ironically when we smoke cigarettes without being on our phone all the time. I always like to say the smartphone has ruined the cigarette break. It used to be that cigarette breaks, I would say, well, yeah, cigarettes aren't good for you. They cause cancer. They're annoying. They're the number one most littering thing in the whole world. Please throw away your cigarette butts. They're disgusting, but even when you throw them away, they're still around. But at least you're having a moment of being really mindful with your breath and doing nothing, looking around or talking with your coworkers. Now I see people literally like this with their smartphone. And, you know, it's sad. We're filling the space all the time. Every time you fill the space at a stoplight, every time you fill the space at a restaurant when a friend goes to the bathroom by being on your smartphone, you are hurting your mind's ability to relax. So if you ever feel stressed out, inject more space into your life. Number one thing filling our space day to day is our phones. So get out to nature, but also just inject space into your daily life by allowing your friend to go to the bathroom and come back and not having to fill the space. Just sit there, be one of those weird people, just kind of sits there, kind of looks around. Oh, look at the tree outside. Oh, look at the waiter. Oh, talk with someone, be friendly. That's called life. It's what we called life back in the 90s. Phones can be fine. This isn't villainizing phones. It's actually not helpful to villainize these tools. We just say they're tools and we're going to use them, not be used by them. A lot of people are too extreme, and extremeness is what you do, binging and dieting. You say, phones are evil, and then, or this video game is evil, and then you're like, I gotta play the video game. Or you're like, cake is evil, and then you're like, I gotta eat the whole cake. It doesn't work. So we have to just, again, find the middle way, what the Buddha called the middle way, relaxing. And that, of course, doesn't work for addiction. For addiction, the middle way ain't gonna work. For addiction, you need to, go through the full-on path with folks who know what they're doing. So in terms of dating, I talked with a friend, and I'm kind of hoping she's not watching because this is totally about her. But I talked with a friend last night, and she was talking about who she was dating. And this person she was dating sounded like the classic narcissist. And I have to say, throughout the phone call, I was having sympathy for the devil. The Rolling Stones song. First of all, I was having empathy for her, of course. And we had a good conversation about that. But, it sounded like this guy had been sort of neglected or abused as a kid. It sounded like he hadn't processed it. We all know that a lot of abusers, and he was not abusing her per se, but a lot of abusers were abused as a child. And it sounded just like he needed his heart broken. He needed to grow up. He needed to have some hard times and challenges. It can be really unfair often for our children to have maybe a hard parenting situation and then not ever be given the chance, like Siddhartha, the future Buddha, was kept cloistered in his castle and never allowed to leave the palace grounds to see aging, to see sickness, to see death. He was only presented with like perfect, beautiful people, kind of like living in, Santa Monica, California. And then you go down to Venice, you're like, oh my God, there's homelessness. Oh my God, there's poor people. We need to not shut out the elderly, shut out the mentally unstable, shut out homelessness. We need to be able to, as a society, even if you want to be Jeff Bezos and be rich and ruin this whole planet and go to a new one, you're still living on Earth, and you need to invest yourself in creating an enlightened society. That's literally our mission as Buddhists, and also at Elephant Journal, and hopefully in your life. No one owns that mission. So my friend was talking about how this guy she was dating was literally unable to hear any kind of criticism, and it wasn't even rude criticism necessarily. It was sort of like basic stuff, like about money, or about communication, or about listening, or about caring. And number one, if you're dating a narcissist, I hope you have a girlfriend or a guy friend in your life who's going to be like, sister, brother, what are you doing? This person may be good. The narcissist may be fundamentally good. And I want that to be clear, that nobody here is evil. We can't kind of scapegoat anyone, but you need to protect number one. And if you're in sort of emotionally abusive, which is a term that is easy to abuse, ironically, but if you're in a truly emotionally abusive, let alone physically abusive relationship, number one, I hope you have friends or community to help remind you that you're worth more than that. You're not somehow deserving of that abuse. So you can try to help a narcissist grow up by communicating with them, by relating to them, by not falling for their games, manipulation, forgiveness, redemption, kind of being a total jerk. But ultimately, it's incredibly humbling for a lot of us. We have to just often say, you know what, you're going to have to grow up on your own. I've tried, I've done my due diligence or my duty, and I deserve more than this. I don't deserve to be in this insanely drama-full relationship. If you have more drama than genuine listening and caring, it's probably there's not change happening. Change won't happen through drama. Change will happen through listening and genuine heartbrokenness. So, often in dating, there's sort of a truth. In my old age, I see that this is true, that when we're young, maybe we're beautiful and we're all this, but we're a little bit arrogant. Not just because we're young, this isn't anti-youth, it's because we haven't kind of had our heart broken. As I think Leonard Cohen said, it's through the cracks that the light gets in. Don't fidget with the coasters. So distracting, Vanessa. And then she could say, hey, blah, blah, blah. And then we could have a non-narcissistic conversation about it. What is she doing with the coasters?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, and having a sense of humor about yourself and knowing that my irritation is my distraction, not her fault. But also knowing that as a friend, maybe fidgeting isn't a great way to relax and be present. So there's just a lot of listening to yourself and to others in this whole conversation. So in terms of narcissism in dating, number one, am I being the narcissist? Probably, sometimes. And it's good to feel that and try to work with yourself. Number two, check your espresso intake, as Anna Ishtar says. Number two, is the other person overwhelmingly the narcissist? Two would be, if so, what are you doing there? Is there a path forward? Are they learning? Are they actually learning, or are they just kind of playing the being a jerk, being a total jerk, not talking, not listening, then manipulating, apologizing, trying to get back in, playing that whole game? If that is the case, break up. Come on. It's not worth it. If you have children together, it's obviously way more complicated, but as my mom did, separation may be necessary to protect the child. I'm very lucky, and I have a lot of love for my grandpa and my father, etc. But I'm very lucky that my mom protected me from what they were passing on generation to generation. So how to deal with drama, number one, is don't, in my humble opinion. Drama is heightened klesha. Klesha is the Buddhist term for heightened emotional freak out energy. It's really hard to get through to that. So I hope I didn't just blow out your earbuds, those of you who had headphones. But so like Dog Whisperer, talking with dogs, he would say, you don't try to train a dog when they're freaking out and they're full of energy. You get them away from fighting, and then you exercise them. You get them tired. And what happens when you exercise? Not only do you let go of a lot of that extra energy and that uptightness, but anyone? I'm not seeing any Facebook comments, weirdly, but tons of Instagram. Anyway, you breathe. So when you breathe, you start reintroducing space to your bloodstream and your mind stream and your heart stream, and you start saying, oh, that thing Vanessa said to me, maybe she just was having a hard day. Maybe she has a little bit of a point. Maybe she was a jerk over here, but she had a point here. Maybe that's really fair in a way. Like, it's not that you have to agree with them 100%, but you start being able to take it in and consider it and digest it and breathe through it. So with drama, there's no real way to deal with it, particularly other than contain it. Say, this is inappropriate. I think like when I grew up babysitting a ton in the Buddhist community, if kids are starting to fight because they're like, you know how like kids are having fun, kids are crazy, kids are having fun, and then at a certain point they're getting crazier, and you're like, it is 3 minutes until they fight and crime will break out, and you just see it coming down the highway like a big truck. So that's a moment when you can say, okay, forget the ball, let's just put the ball away, the ball's dumb, let's not fight over the ball, you don't need to be right, hey, be nice to your sister, hey, no, you kind of like, it's like the UN going in and be like, come on guys, you're all being jerks, frankly, but you don't need to say that. And you just kind of break up that energy, and then you're like, go play, go. And then, playing often becomes napping, right? Because they're so wound up. They're actually tired, but they're being dramaful. So whether it's children or dogs or us, drama is dangerous stuff. So, in my old age, I generally, when I run into drama in a relationship, whether it's my drama or their drama or our drama together, I'll say, let's come back to it. I don't think there's any shame in that. Let's come back to it. As soon as our voices are raising, is because why do we actually raise our voices? Why do we do that? It's because we don't feel heard, right? We're trying to get through, but it kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, they're right there. Like, we don't need to talk louder. That doesn't make sense. sort of like the pig or whatever, trying to blow who's blowing? The wolf is blowing the pig's house down. Like, like you're trying to force them to listen, but it's not going to work. So you just step away, walk away from the argument, and you can communicate that. So it's not just like, Vanessa and I are, sorry to use you as the straw man, but, we're discussing, and then suddenly she's yelling and I start yelling. And it's not just like I walk out of the room and I leave. That's a little dramaful, right? I say, you know what, Vanessa? We're clearly not getting anywhere. You don't have to say anything nice. I don't feel like I'm going to be like, Vanessa, I think you're a great person and let's just come back to it. Come on. You're in the middle of an argument. She's not going to be like, you know what, Waylon? I think you're wonderful. Somehow we're just on the wrong thread. No, you're like all amped up and you want to like dogs like on leashes. So you just say, you know what? Let's come back to it. I'm going to go for a walk. And you leave. And just that much communication is respectful, because then your partner, we're just friends, but if you're in a romantic relationship or a family, it's really helpful to know that they didn't just leave and go on a bender, or they hate you and they're never coming back. Like just some basic communication, like, I'm going for a walk. I'm good. And, instead of saying awful things that we're going to regret later. So that's basically it in terms of narcissism. Number one, I am the walrus. I am the narcissist. Look at your own narcissism. Anyone who would start by saying you're the narcissist that's what narcissists do. They point at other people as the problem. Number two, if you are dating a narcissist, some sort of self-worth, some self-esteem, some self-preservation. Make sure you're safe. If they're listening, if they're changing, if they're genuinely taking stuff in, that could be okay. But if not, get out of Dodge. Walk away from the narcissist. And number three, I don't remember. Just rewind if you like it. What was number three? Yeah, we don't know. Drama, maybe how to deal with like the intensity of it is sort of is to contain it, walk away, exercise, breath, all that. So if you feel like you have no self-esteem, that's how a lot of us feel. So number one, know that you're not alone. Number two, meditate. Meditate every day. Take a good posture. Find your breath. Label those thoughts. I suck. I'm lonely. All that sort of negative self-talk. It's not that those thoughts are bad, because the thoughts actually have wisdom in there. Maybe I do suck in some ways. Maybe I am lonely. It's okay to listen to that stuff, but meditate. Notice the thoughts. Come back to your breath. See through the thoughts, breathe through the thoughts. So we have meditation blogs on elephantjournal.com that are much wiser than I am, by far. So please go to elephantjournal.com, search meditation instruction, and you'll find some great stuff. I've also taught meditation. If you want, I make it accessible, but what you lose in what you gain in accessibility, you lose in me having any clue what to do in this human life. And that's about it. So I hope you're all super well, and big love and respect. And you can get all our videos, podcasts. It's an award-winning podcast already, or not award-winning, well, kind of. And award-winning video series on elephantjournal.com/talk show. You can find it on IGTV, Instagram. You can subscribe at elephantjournal.com/subscribe. You can get our newsletter, which is my daily editor's letter, at elephantjournal.com/best. And all these things, we like to criticize media. Remember, Google, Facebook, and now Amazon have taken over 80-90% of all media. What's left is the media like MSM that people like to criticize. So what little is left, maybe we're supporting. There could be crappy media in there like Fox News that's just super biased. So within that, there's a smaller sliver of journalism or of genuine sites trying to be helpful, like hopefully Elephant. So please subscribe, please get our newsletter, please read. Don't just like our Instagram photos. Instagram is owned by Facebook. It's part of a monopoly. The only way we'll stick around is if you support us. Support doesn't have to mean money. It can be reading Elephant, sharing Elephant, checking out our podcast or videos, any kind of action, writing on Elephant. Share your voice, elephantjournal.com/post. And we will keep it coming. Thank you, Stella. That's very sweet. but we can only do that if you give us permission to. And the way you can do it is go to elephantjournal.com/best. Get the newsletter, that's free. All right, big love to everybody. And good luck.